Hey guys, today on the reset, we are going to be talking about the benefits of intermittent fasting and why we're using it during the reset. There's actually a lot of research behind intermittent fasting. And one of the most important things that I just want to say up front is that two of your hormones, leptin and ghrelin, the two hormones that actually control weight gain and hunger, run on a 12-hour cycle. And so you should never, ever be eating outside a 12-hour window. So if you start eating at 6 a.m., which means from the first time you take in anything with a single calorie, including if you put cream in your coffee or you put honey in your coffee, even if you put stevia in your coffee, because your body does interpret that as a calorie, believe it or not, to the time that you stop eating, only 12 hours should elapse. So if you start eating at 6 a.m., you need to be done eating by 5:59 p.m. So if you know that your schedule doesn't exactly work that way, I would like you to think about during this reset how you're going to start planning your day so that you can eat in no more than a 12-hour window so that you're optimizing hormone function. So detoxification is one of the number one benefits of fasting. It's the most potent way to remove toxins from your body because you're giving your body the most amount of time to actually process through everything that it gets in without adding anything new except for water and air. So when you're thinking about how to detox, fasting is one of the best ways. It helps with fat breakdown because it helps mobilize the fat soluble toxins that are stored in your fat, which is where most of the toxins are stored. And believe it or not, the more toxins you put in, the larger those fat cells will grow because your body tries to neutralize the toxins. And the best way to neutralize is to dilute. And the best way to dilute is to store it in the fat. It's also important to get rid of those toxins through sweat, urine, and stool. So when you're doing a fast, you might notice that your body odor changes. And this can be everything from, for women, it can be genital odor. It can be the odor that you emit when you sweat. It can be your general odor when you are going just through a day and have normal body odor that occurs in your hair, in your armpits. You may even notice that odor on your hands and feet change. It can also, because it gets out through sweat, it also gets out through saliva, which happens in your mouth. So your breath, you might notice changes in your breath. And if you're noticing significant changes in your breath, we should definitely talk about that because that can be something also that's affecting your gut. Reishi mushrooms in your coffee, in your tea, and there are sprays that help flush out toxins. So reishi mushrooms speed up the metabolism because they help your body flush out those toxins. And that's why we use the reishi mushroom spores or the reishi mushroom coffee that we recommend during the reset. So autophagy or self-eating. When you are fasting, especially if you do a fast long enough, your body starts to digest its own damaged cells and get rid of them. And that's actually a really good thing because you want it to get rid of the stuff that's no longer serving you. If it's doing harm and not serving you, why not just get rid of it? And fasting is a great way to do that. It is a vital clean out process, like taking out the trash to get rid of those dead cells or those broken cells. And you're kind of recycling parts of the cells that you don't need, but also grabbing onto the things that you do need from those cells. Fasting also helps your body destroy bacteria, viruses, and pathogens because it has more time, again, to allow it to do those things. Fasting is also very useful at preventing and treating cancer. So yes, we want cancer patients to eat healthy foods in a balanced way, but we also know that fasting helps them recover faster. And especially taking sugar out of the diet and doing a sugar fast helps cancer patients recover faster and helps decrease the likelihood of recurrence if they continue to keep most sugars out of the diet. Fasting is also really great for neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and MS, as well as muscular dystrophy. It helps stabilize the healthy fats around those cells without adding toxins into the fats that surround the nerve sheath itself. So those cells are no longer being degenerated. All the nerves are surrounded by what's called a myelin sheath. That myelin sheath is made of fats. So yes, after 6 weeks, we're going to add some fats back into your diet. The most important reason for that is because your nerves do need those fats. But by continuing to eat only in a 12-hour window or a 10-hour window, you can help prevent things like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, muscular dystrophy from advancing, and MS from advancing. The big one, the reason most of us do the reset, weight loss, right? When you fast, you reduce your insulin levels and your body no longer receives signals to store extra calories as fat. So you're accessing fat stores and reducing visceral fat or fat around your organs and the abdomen, which has been linked to cardiovascular disease. And that also improves your insulin uptake. So a lot of us become insulin resistant because of our diets. And we're trying to mobilize blood sugar better, but we aren't doing a very good job of it. And that actually makes us develop insulin resistance, which makes us less healthy overall and more likely to store fat. Fasting in short terms, 4 to 6 weeks, can actually boost your metabolism. So if you do it longer than that, obviously prolonged fasting, you can get some detrimental effects, especially if you stay in a very low calorie state. But doing it for short periods of time, 4 to 6 weeks at a time, you can see some significant benefits from it. And then fasting also helps train your body to burn fat and preserve muscle, and helps you become leaner and stronger. So reduced insulin resistance. Fasting lowers insulin and blood glucose levels because, number one, you aren't putting sugar in it all of the time. So your resting blood glucose levels drop, and so does your resting insulin level. It gives your pancreas a chance to produce less insulin since it isn't needed. So your pancreas isn't overworked, which means you're less likely to develop type 2 diabetes, where your pancreas just stops producing enough altogether. And fasting lowers insulin more powerfully than any strategy out there, including medication. Insulin resistance is a precursor to diabetes, obesity, heart and neurodegenerative diseases, cancer, and many other chronic diseases, including Addison's disease and thyroid disorders. Insulin is the primary hormone that tells your body whether to store energy or burn it. So the more of it that's floating around, the more you're going to store that energy or gain weight instead of burning it. And when you eat, especially high carb foods and processed foods, your blood glucose levels increase. So your body then increases insulin in an effort to lower the blood glucose levels. And then you start this cycle where your muscles actually become resistant to insulin. And that resistance to insulin and elevated insulin in the blood is actually far more dangerous than high blood sugar. The resultant increased weight gain because of higher insulin levels typically signals your body to store even more energy that you take in as fat. So you can be eating only iceberg lettuce and still put on weight because your body just doesn't know what else to do with it. Another result is that the receptors for insulin in your cells get desensitized, and you need to release more and more insulin over time in order to remove glucose out of the blood and into your cells. When you fast, that blood glucose level falls, your pancreas produces less and less insulin, and your muscles become more and more susceptible to insulin when it is released. So more and more of the blood sugar gets shuttled into the muscles to be used for energy. When you fast, your circadian rhythms and your sleep ends up being better. So when you take a break from eating, particularly if you stop eating 3 to 4 hours before bedtime, there is a significant increase in REM sleep. REM sleep is that really deep recovery sleep where your body actually starts really, truly restoring itself. So there's a whole thing about you should eat between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m., right? Well, I would argue that you should eat between 6 a.m. and 2 p.m. And the reason is between 2 p.m. and 10 p.m., when you go to bed, if you haven't taken anything in, that means that all of your sleep is dedicated to tissue repair, as opposed to the first 2 to 3 hours being diverted to digestion and absorption of nutrients. Because it takes about 4 to 6 hours for the stomach to empty and somewhere between 6 to 8 hours for the small intestine to process everything. So if you are spending, even if you stop eating at 6 and you go to bed at 10, everything has finally moved from your stomach to the small intestine. And so your small intestine is spending a lot of time digesting and absorbing nutrients instead of having your body focus on tissue repair. So I would argue that you should be eating between 6 a.m. and 2 p.m. One of the other reasons this typically works really well is because then most people's habit is to snack in the afternoon and to have something right before they go to bed. But if you just tell yourself, I can't have anything after 2 p.m., that's it. All those snacks that you would normally keep in the cupboard, like that stash of chocolate or that stash of something sweet or your protein shake even, it's no longer in the house. So it's no longer a threat to your sustainability for fasting and eating healthy. The problem with eating in that manner, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., is that dinner is one of the most social meals in the American diet. One of the things that I have done is try and shift to the 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., partly because I really like to work out in the morning, and getting through that energy shift is hard if you don't eat something. I can't make it until noon, which is typically when I would get to eat. But on the weekends, this allows me to do a very big family breakfast with the kids. And just because I don't eat dinner with them doesn't mean I'm not sitting down and still having that conversation and friendly catch up with them. So I would encourage you, even if you're someone who does a lot of business lunches and dinners, stop doing so many dinners and start doing more lunches, because it's better for your health, but also better for the health of the clients that you're taking out. Improved gut health. There's a huge population of microbes that live in your gut. And 80% of your immune system is in your gut. So when your gut microbiome is disrupted, so is your immune function, which makes you more at risk for seasonal allergies, viruses, bacteria, pathogens, parasites, etc. If you're that person that feels like you pick up every little thing, we might need to talk about your gut more in detail, because your gut is 80% of your immune system. And in case you're not aware of this, your gut, the small intestine, has more nerve receptors than your brain. So when they say the gut-brain connection, they really mean it, because your gut is controlling every single thought that your brain has, because it has more receptors than your brain. Your microbiome is largely influenced by your diet, so what and when you eat, and by stress. If you're more stressed, the bad gut bacteria that crave things that are not good for you are going to be more active. If you eat more processed foods, even if they're marketed as healthy, you're going to have more bad gut bacteria, which means that your brain is not going to function optimally, and you'll be more susceptible to cold and flu viruses. Fasting helps reset your gut microbiome and helps reduce gut permeability or leaky gut syndrome. So basically what happens with a leaky gut is that there's these little tight junctions called Z junctions in your gut lining. And these junctions actually happen even along muscle cells. They happen in your bladder. They happen all throughout your body. But in your gut, they're particularly important, just like they are on the skin, because when they are nice and tight, nothing can get through. But as you destroy the tissue inside the gut, and the little microvilli hairs that are in the gut start deteriorating, those gaps between those cells grow, and things get out of the gut and into the bloodstream that shouldn't. And this causes you've heard of sepsis or a septic infection. This can cause that. And they say it's an infection for unknown reason. Well, we know the reason. We just aren't the primary focus of healthcare at this point. And so it's still looked at as one of those off radar kinds of infections. So fasting optimizes brain function. How does it do that? It boosts your mood, improves your memory, triggers generation of new neurons, and lowers the risk of age-related cognitive decline. So again, we're talking about dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, etc. And it does that again because insulin levels remain low throughout the day and blood sugar levels remain low throughout the day. So high blood sugar, high insulin levels actually attack the nerves, and that causes your body to have this neurocognitive decline. So by fasting in a way that's safe and functional, we can improve your mood, improve memory, and help your brain actually develop new neurons and learn new things. Cardiovascular function improves. Fasting decreases that abdominal fat around the organs, which we know is the major risk factor for a heart attack and stroke. It improves cholesterol numbers, especially if you're doing this with a low fat fasting, and it decreases blood pressure. So if you're doing a high fat keto diet and you're fasting, your cholesterol numbers are probably going to go the wrong way after the first 6 weeks. And that's because you're taking in a lot of fats. But if you're eating a low fat meal with plenty of vegetables and a small serving of fruit, you're going to improve those cholesterol numbers. And it doesn't matter if that's a genetic cholesterol problem or a man-created cholesterol problem. This program is going to help improve that. You will lose visceral fat. And the interesting thing is, one of my clients who went through this fast was doing the in-body scans, and she kept telling me, I can't see a difference in my weight, but the scale says I'm losing weight. And in fact, she lost 29.5 pounds in 6 weeks. She went in for her in-body scan in her primary care doctor's office, and it turned out that she lost 12 pounds of visceral fat. Her husband died 2 years ago of a massive heart attack that had no preemptive warning signs. So she just decreased her risk of dying the same way that her husband did by 13% because of how much abdominal visceral fat around those organs that she lost. And that to her was life-changing and completely mood-changing. When you fast, you burn fat. It gives your body unlimited access to energy stores and allows you to feel more energetic. And this is because if you look at calories from protein is 4 grams or 4 calories per gram. Calories from fats are 9 calories per gram. So it's slightly more than double the amount of energy comes from your fat stores as does from your carbohydrate stores. So if you're burning fat, you get twice as much energy for the same weight. So the other interesting thing is when you're burning fat, you are burning ketones. So you can get into ketosis by eating a very low fat diet. And you will get into ketosis very likely in this diet if you're doing it the right way. And that has also been shown in the literature to improve neurocognitive function. So all of the Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia, muscular dystrophy, MS, that all improves, as well as depression. So burning fat during fasting is great. Stem cell production. This is one that a lot of people don't think about. Your body produces stem cells a lot when you're little, and as you age, not as much. But fasting, because your body is allowed to do so much repair work, actually helps improve the number of stem cells that are produced in your body on a daily basis. And I'm going to tell you this up front. This first 6 weeks, you are undoing years of damage. So this first time that you go through this program in this first 6 weeks, you're probably not going to change really the amount of stem cell production that you're doing. But if you notice in the maintenance phase, if you've read the book, it tells you to keep doing fasting a couple of times a week, 3 to 4 times a week, so that you continue to help the body recover optimally, right? And also, I told you at the beginning of this, I want you to stay in a 12-hour eating window anyway, so you're fasting for 12 hours. After you get through the first 6 weeks, you're going to take no less than a 4-week break. I would actually encourage you to take a 6-week break so that you have time to kind of add foods back in and really look at those foods and see how you're doing with them and see what changes. It also gives you a little bit more time before you have to do that loading phase. And you're really only eating super strict then for 6 weeks out of every quarter. And it's really easy to track. When you go through that loading phase again, and then you start fasting again, that second round is where you'll start to see changes in the texture of your skin, in the elasticity of your skin, and that is because you're changing stem cell production at that point. And stem cells help to maintain and repair tissues, including cartilage in the joints, including bone tissue, and particularly skin tissue. And actually, stem cell production helps improve the elasticity of the skin and make you appear younger. And this really big one for brain health, right? Fasting helps improve your intestinal stem cell function, which helps maintain the lining of your gut and maintains your sacred gut barrier, which also means that you're not going to get a systemic infection from the gut of unknown origin. And it also means that your mind and mood are going to be better. If there are any questions, shoot me a text at this number or through the app, of course. And then also make sure that you're filling out your journal every day and make sure that you are filling out your gratitude journal, especially. And if you can do that morning and night, you will start to notice the difference in that mind and mood function as well. I hope you're all doing fantastic and that you're still enjoying the reset. Of course, any problems that pop up, please, please, please communicate. Do not hesitate to reach out.